Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of the Arsenal News Show. Join you every morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, it's much appreciated and very much looking forward to talking all things Arsenal. As per, drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and turn those notifications on so you never miss a show. Let's say good morning to those joining us in the chat box. As always, it's an absolute pleasure to see you. Blackshine, good morning to you. Joining us first a lot, really getting in there early. Good to see Steve Stone, Matt G, Amira. Good morning to you. To Nav, good morning to Clincy. Good morning to Keems, Bram Percy. We've got Kaiser. We've got Steve, Olu, Wilson, Paul. We've got Carl, Jose, Morgie, Ben Nix as well. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. Let's, without further ado, though, crack on with today's stories. First of all, yesterday evening, I was joined by Paul from the Arsenal Vision podcast. We had a good chat about how Arsenal should manage the title run-in. How do you manage a problem like William Saliba's injury? Talking about Emile Smith-Rowe, Fabio Vieira, Reece Nelson, Eddie Nketiah, how they fit into things in the final games. We talked about Liverpool and how we should set up for that fixture. And we talked about how likely our chances are, of course, of winning the title. As well as that, we also discussed the fantastic fundraiser, which yesterday Elliot revealed had raised over £100,000 in just 3 days. Of course, you can still donate, and they've upped the target to an amazing £150,000. Let's see if we can try and help them on their way to reaching what a fantastic target that indeed is. So as I said before, we'll be donating hopefully upwards of £1,000, courtesy of everybody here with their memberships, with people buying the merchandise on the channel. And I'll be matching our half of the merchant side up to £500 as well. So we're going to try and make a big dent in the fundraising funds as well, which I'm very looking forward to then talking about and discussing more in Chicago in just 2 weeks' time. In 2 weeks' time from today, I will indeed be in Chicago. Very, very excited indeed. So let's, without further ado, move on to our stories. Yesterday evening, I don't know what's going on there. Yesterday evening, we saw Arsenal's youth side win 2-1 against Manchester City in the FA Youth Cup. And not only did they win, but in very Arsenal style, they left it late. They left it to the very last seconds of the game, and a small chip over the top found Miles Lewis-Skelly, who were able to get on his to leap into the air, just so high into the air for a small guy, and just tip his header past the Manchester City goalkeeper and into the back of the net for 120th minute. I mean, I thought Reece Nelson left it late, but 120th minute in the game, Arsenal pop up with their second goal against 10-man Man City and find their way into the FA Youth Cup final, which is an amazing achievement. Of course, Jack Wilshere, a big part of the process, being the under-18s coach. And of course, there are some under-21s players that play in the under-18s Youth Cup that can still, of course, play in both sides. But what an amazing achievement that we've seen so far from these guys. But yes, Arsenal beating Man City 2-1. We're still waiting for the second semi-final. I'm just trying to get the information on that. That will be, West Ham are playing Southampton in the next one. I assume that will be today. I'm not sure where or when the final takes place. But the semi-final that we had at home took place at the Emirates. But I'm not sure, Daniel, whether or not the final does take place at Wembley. I mean, it shouldn't it? It's never a Youth Cup final. Play it in the home of football, if indeed, depending on whoever Arsenal face, Southampton or West Ham. West Ham, by the way, don't be fooled by the fact we beat Man City. So we've got Southampton or West Ham in the final. West Ham are very, very good. So they will be the favourites going into that. I would assume they would be able to beat Southampton. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. But yes, it's supposed to be probably the hardest test that they will have. It's the Emirates. There you go. The final is at the Emirates this year. So thank you, everybody in the chat box, for letting me know. That's a home advantage, if you like. And hopefully as many people can get down there for the FA Youth Cup final as they can. There's a lot of people in the ground last night, which is fantastic to see. Now, Chelsea, speaking of our under 18s, are said to be trying, along with Man City, to persuade Ethan Nwaneri to join them. Of course, the player is still yet to agree a professional contract with Arsenal, the youngest ever Premier League player on record. And Chelsea and City are said to be doing all they can to try and lure him away from the club. Arsenal are still said to be relatively confident of keeping Ethan Nwaneri at the club, but of course, there is no guarantees in this sport. In positive news, Miles Lewis-Skelly, the scorer of yesterday's winner in the game as well, he will indeed commit his future to Arsenal, which is fantastic news. Mario Koja-Dubry, I saw, I want to give credit, I think it was Simon Collins that tweeted it. It might have been Charles Watts. Basically said that watching Mario Koja-Dubry is eerily similar to watching a very young, I mean, he's still young, but a very young Bukayo Saka. So high praise indeed for our youngsters last night. But hopefully Arsenal can retain Nwaneri for the long-term future. Now, in Premier League action yesterday, Liverpool rested plenty of their stars in a 0-0 draw with Chelsea. A frustrating result, arguably, for both teams. Neither wanted to lose it, but certainly neither wanted to win it. It was a dull, boring game, which showed that if there is an Arsenal game on in any kind of capacity, you should definitely be putting your attentions into that rather than the boring number of 0-0 draws that we've seen between these two sides. I think they've drawn the last 4 games between them in the league, 0-0, something like that. Ridiculous history these two clubs have got of never, ever scoring against one another. But, of course, the likes of Salah, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Andrew Robertson, Cody Gakpo were all on the bench for Liverpool ahead of their game against Arsenal on Sunday. Other results yesterday evening, Bournemouth lost 2-0 against Brighton. That enabled Brighton to move up much closer to the top 4, and they are really very much so in the race this season to try and get a good European qualification spot. Leeds beat Nottingham Forest in a massive result for them that moved them up well out of the relegation zone because it's just so tight down there at the bottom. Nottingham Forest still very much involved in things. And Aston Villa and Unai Emery getting a 2-1 win at Leicester, really compounding Leicester's problems. They're now 19th in the table, just 25 points, 2 points away from safety. Of course, a win for them would still move them up to, amazingly, 15th if other results went their way. But Chelsea in 11th on 39 points now. But as I say, Brighton just 4 points away from Tottenham in 4th, and they've played 2 games left than our North London rivals. Manchester United, of course, also 4 points ahead of Brighton in 5th, having played the same number of games as Brighton as well. But Spurs' European credentials are falling away very rapidly. And it's great to see. We love it. Now, today, there are further games. Manchester United will play Brentford in what is expected to be a very interesting game. Brentford, of course, could move up to as high as 7th, joint 6th in the table if they were to beat Manchester United, a side that they beat 4-0 earlier on in the campaign. Man United are looking to go into 4th place, actually into 3rd place if they were to even get a draw tonight. Newcastle as well on 50 points. Amazing. Brighton are 4 points off 3rd, to give you kind of perspective on their season. That's how good Brighton have been. Some people may say it's how bad the others have been. I like to think it's how good they've been this season. Madness. 4 points off 3rd place are Brighton and Hove Albion. West Ham, meanwhile, play Newcastle. Of course, if West Ham were to get a result, that would put Newcastle's hopes of a top 4 place at risk, certainly. And West Ham have got themselves up to 15th in the table and will be looking to go to 30 and clear of that relegation zone with a win. Very interesting games tonight. Daniel's going for a 1-1 draw in the United game and a 2-0 Newcastle win in East London. Now, our final main story of the day is, according to the latest reports coming out of Italy, Arsenal, well, so get those salt shakers at the ready, people. Arsenal have sent scouts to watch Sacha Boey, a Galatasaray right back, a French player as well, and someone that has been very much under the radar in my circles. I'd really not heard much about this guy other than when we discussed him on a previous show a few weeks ago. But these links have resurfaced again. Whether or not that legitimizes them or not, I'm completely unsure. I can't say I've heard anything about this story whatsoever. But a very interesting player from watching a couple of clips this morning when I was trying to familiarize myself with him, but I might be doing a little bit more digging to find out what I can if indeed this is true. But our right back is certainly on the market for Arsenal in the summer. It's a position I expect us to move for. Now, the Martinelli prize sold out and was and the winner of that we revealed on the Football Prizes Facebook page this week. So make sure if you bought a ticket, you check your details to find out where and when you can find out whether or not you've won it or not. But a brand new prize with just 29 tickets is available. There is an opportunity to win one of 5 different shirts, but I think the one that you're going to be most interested in is the signed Tomiyasu shirt. I mean, if you're that way inclined, you could get a signed Sinistera lead shirt or a signed Christian Romero shirt. I mean, are you joking? A signed Anthony shirt of Manchester United or a signed Sterling shirt of Chelsea. But of course, from an Arsenal perspective, a signed Takahiro Tomiyasu shirt is available for just 29 people that decide to jump in. That's the reason why this prize is $9.95 a ticket, because you've got a great chance of winning it if you indeed do choose to jump in to try and get this 12-hour competition. So it's ending today. So don't miss out on the chance, and we'll tell you about any new prizes available for you tomorrow. Okay, let's go to part 2 then, and your questions right after this. Now, I have mentioned this yesterday, but I just want to remind people that may have missed this. For those that have been messaging me saying they can't buy any of the TGT caps at the moment, that they're sold out on the website. The reason for that is because there is a manufacturing issue right now with the embroidery machine that is hopefully going to be fixed within the next 2 weeks, less than that now, of course. So apologies for anyone wanting to buy caps. Hopefully you'll be able to do so in around 10 to 12 days. That's what we're hoping to see. And as soon as I know that they're back and available to be purchased, you will know that they're back and available to be purchased. So if you've bought any within the last 3 days, you should have received an email saying that there'll be a slight delay. I think there's also an opportunity, but we're going to try and get those hats out to you still using other means. But we've paused the purchasing option for the moment until this issue at the company is sorted. Let's go to the chat box then. And Kid Kaka says, Sacha Boey, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is insane in the Turkish league. Deluded Gooner has mentioned his links a few weeks back. The links have been around, just not in the mainstream. Well, Kid Kaka, if he indeed is insane, I hope you're right, and I hope he signs for Arsenal, but I need to watch a lot more of him before I make a judgment myself. Steve says, how many players do we need to sign to have the right squad depth? I think 3 players plus integrating youth is enough. I think when you look at certain positions on the field, you look at right back and think we need some more variation, hence why we're seeing some of these links to Boey and to Fresneda, for instance. I think we need to add another midfielder. I think we all know that Declan Rice is certainly on the list and continues to be our priority. And I think we could arguably bring in another forward. We might see Reece Nelson move on in the summer. We might see him move permanently away from the club, even though there's said to be discussions around a brand new contract. And a right-sided centre-back is another area. Depending on what happens with Tierney and Tavares, we might also need a left-back. So that's certainly plenty of positions that we need to look into. But we've also got youth players coming through. Lino Souza at left-backs, one to look out for. Raul Waters is an interesting right-back / centre-back who can certainly develop into an interesting player, but I think they probably need loans at the senior level before we start talking about them. Charlie Patino is the midfielder, though, that I'd like to see reintegrated into the group and see what he's capable of next season, unless he moves to a Premier League team on loan, of course. Let's go to Gaik. It says, do you think that Arteta broke out that You'll Never Walk Alone live show at training this week? I think this game is the biggest test so far this season. I still think the Man City home game was the biggest test. We failed that, unfortunately, and then we've had a lot of tests since then reacting to that, and we've won our last, 7 games in a row in the league. So I don't think that the speakers will work. I remember speaking to Aaron Ramsdale at the start of this season, actually, and when he was asked the question about the speakers in the All or Nothing documentary, and he said, I don't think they'll be coming back out again. So yes, I don't think we are going to see that, unfortunately, but we'll wait and see. Maybe we will, and maybe it'll be something that's used. George says, what's your predicted front 3 on Sunday? I feel like people are asking me this question as a joke now. I've been asked this question every day for the last week, and I will continue to tell you it's Gabriel Jesus, Martinelli, and Saka. It's as simple as that. Trossard comes off the bench. The only way that Trossard gets into this team, it's for Gabby Jesus. You don't bring him for Martinelli because Martinelli's best. I mean, the combination between Trossard and Martinelli is the best of the front three. So you can't replace one with the other. You have to play both of them. So you have to replace Jesus. So it's still Martinelli, Saka, and Jesus as the front three. Matt says, if Newcastle don't make the top four, do you think we should test them with a cheeky bid for Bruno Guimaraes? Absolutely, but they're not going to sell for anything less than a ridiculous price, and maybe not even then because they probably don't need the money. Avinash says, good morning from India, Tom. Afternoon here, of course. Thank you for joining me, mates. What do you think of managers dropping like 9 pins? 12 managers fired this season. Have you ever seen anything like this in the top 6 leagues? Yeah. Italy in particular, if you're not familiar with Italian football, they sack and hire managers like it's going out of fashion. It's kind of crazy. If you're ever a fan of Italian football, it's mental. The transfers, the loans, and the managerial merry-go-round in Serie A and Serie B is very, very amusing indeed. But from an Arsenal, well, from a Premier League point of view, we always see plenty of managers moved on, but 12 is, you're right, a hell of a lot. And I think that's because how tight it is down the bottom, how tight it is going into the Champions League race, and teams are very scared. I mean, you look at teams like Leicester getting rid of Rodgers, Southampton getting rid of Hasenhüttl and then Nathan Jones. West Ham have stuck it out so far, of course, with their manager, David Moyes, keeping his job. Bournemouth, of course, sacking Scott Parker, but keeping Gary O'Neill for the moment. Steve Cooper's remained, of course, at Nottingham Forest. Sean Dyche coming in to replace Frank Lampard. Julian Lopetegui coming in. Who was the Wolves coach? Was it, what was it? It's the Portuguese, obviously it's a Portuguese guy. Bruno Lage, was that it? I think he was sacked at the start of the campaign. Julian Lopetegui, of course, coming in. And Leeds, we saw Jesse Marsh go. And now we've obviously seen Javi Gracia come in there. And Crystal Palace getting rid of Patrick Vieira. In fact, Southampton, Leicester, Bournemouth, Everton, Wolves, and Leeds and Palace, 7 of the bottom 9 teams have all changed their coaches. So that's mad, isn't it? That's kind of crazy. Yeah, an amazing statistic about how much change there has been at there. Please don't spam the chat. If you spam the chat, you don't get your question asked. It's as simple as that. Noel says, Tom, everyone is talking about the Liverpool and City game, but don't you think it's more likely to be a game like Newcastle or Brentford or City that could define the winner? Yeah, potentially. I mean, I was talking about this with Paul yesterday, and it's actually kind of a startling reality. If we lose to Liverpool, and arguably even if we draw with Liverpool, the league's then in City's hands. One defeat to Liverpool, and the league could be in City's hands. Because if you think about it, yes, we've got an 8-point gap, but City have a game in hand, and one of their games this season is against us. If we lose against Liverpool, suddenly that gap could drop to as low as 2 points, and then we play City. So we have to be basically perfect. Now, City have to be perfect as well, of course, it's worth pointing out. But we just have to keep winning. Keep winning, keep picking up points. A draw is not a terrible result, but certainly it could be if we end up losing to City later on in the season. We need to win this. They are there for the taking. They are beatable. We are 20-odd plus points ahead of them in the table, and we should not be scared. They should be the ones worried about going and facing us, not the other way around. But let's wait and see what indeed does happen. Let's go to Wes. Says, I think weirdly that a draw was a good result for us regarding Liverpool, as you don't want a wounded animal in Liverpool at Anfield. I'm hoping that we are due a great result against them. Me too. And says, would you go and get Evan Ferguson from Brighton? He'd be ridiculously overpriced, but what a prospect. Looks like a great talent, but no, I don't think so. I don't think the price would reflect what you were getting. I think you can arguably sign somebody better, or you've got Balogun coming back anyway. So no, you don't need to go out and sign Evan Ferguson. Haroon says, what do you think about Klopp dropping so many first 11 players for last night's game? I think that they thought they could probably try and get a result at Chelsea without playing their stars and trying to rest them ahead of the game against us. It is what it is. They still came on. Salah, Robertson, Gakpo all came off the bench and did play. So they have played some minutes. But Arsenal need to be fully rested, fully ready going into the game at Anfield. And hopefully we can get a result. Let's go to Marcus. Says youth final may be a lunchtime or have to move the date and venue as the 29th first team is playing at 5:30 against Chelsea. I don't know. Usually they do play some youth games at the same time. So I know it's the cup final, but I don't think that would affect things, unfortunately, Marcus, which will create issues, especially for media that want to go and cover both games. Kev says, Tom, how soon is St Totteringham's Day? It's 2 wins away, mate. If we win 2 games, it's there. So beat Liverpool and beat... who have we got next? Who's on next after Liverpool? It's West Ham. West Ham away from home. Then I was going to say Southampton, but that's after. So Liverpool and West Ham, 2 away games. In fact, 3 of our next 4 games are all away from home, including Liverpool and City. So the next 4 games, our table and our season could certainly look a lot more clear as to what we're going to be achieving during this campaign. TJR says, who do you think is going to be the next Liverpool manager? I would bet my house is going to be on Postecoglou. I think that it's going to be... Oh, it's a great question. I don't know, because I don't know when Klopp would move on. They've only just signed him up to a brand new contract, I think, recently. So I'm not 100% sure what we might see from Liverpool's next head coach. We'll have to wait and find out. Lucas says, you're stuck in a burning building and you can choose one Arsenal player, past or present, to save you. Who are you picking? That is an interesting question. Well, I'd probably say Kolasinac. He's got a record of being heroic. Whilst his footballing ability might be questionable, and certainly he may not choose to save me if he hears me saying that. But it's got to be Sacha Kolasinac, like without a shadow of a doubt. Obviously, it's got to be Kolasinac. You would maybe say it's a goalkeeper to save you, but no, surely it's Kolasinac. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, Lucas, has to be Kolasinac. Jashar says, unfortunately, Tom, I think City will be perfect. They have hit their stride, but I hope I'm wrong. It just depends on what Arsenal do. It's in their hands, and you can't ask them more than that. No, if you offered me this position at the start of the season, I would have bitten your arm off for it. And of course, we have to remember that City do have games in both the Champions League and the FA Cup still to come. They've got a lot of fixtures. If they manage to pull off a Premier League title, it would be an amazing achievement still for City. But Arsenal, we got to keep pushing ourselves, keep backing ourselves, and hopefully we can get a result somewhere that we've not got a result since 2012. Yeah, certainly so. Some people are saying Tony Adams should be the one to come and get it. Per Mertesacker, Granit Xhaka. There's a lot of options. I think personally that Sacha Kolasinac is the ultimate choice. He's just going to be like... in the X-Men films where if anyone wasn't what's his name? Why have I forgotten his name? Wimbledon. Vinnie Jones, that's his name. Thank you. Who plays the Juggernaut in the X-Men films? I can just see Kolasinac like smashing through the walls, picking me up, and then running through the other walls on the other side of the house. You can just visualize that situation, and I just don't think the others. I mean, Mertesacker is a bit tall. You'd have to like bend down under the burning beams and stuff like that. I don't think you want necessarily a really tall person having to come through a burning building. There's a bigger target to be hit by the fire and the falling debris. I think Kolasinac, you want him. You want the muscles. That's as simple as that, really. Mohammed says, depending on the outcome of the relegation battle, Arsenal must keep an eye on some of the teams being relegated for top players at decent prices, like Onana, Maddison, and Lavia. Yes, of course. If we can exploit some kind of opportunities, we should be looking to do that, but only if we're able to sign players that are going to be beneficial. If we are going to sign players, we need to make sure whoever they are, they're the right fit, they're the right quality. Declan Rice is by far, for me, the obvious candidate. He may not go down with West Ham. He may still stay up. And he's still the obvious candidate to bring in as the prime number one midfielder, other than Jude Bellingham, who I don't think we're going to be able to get. But you don't sign players for the sake of it just because they're available for good prices. Arsenal need to make sure that they have the right players at the right time with the right depth in the right positions. Aditya says, hey, Tom, when do you see Kivior playing in the Premier League? Shouldn't he be getting some game time each week to be ready? Maybe Arteta feels he's not ready, but a few mins can definitely help him. Yeah, I think we'll see him come on in games maybe where we're more comfortable and we can bring off Gabriel for a few minutes. I don't think you're going to see him too much, though. And I don't think that should worry you. We're going to see him play a lot more in the pre-season and then in the cup competitions and maybe some Premier League games next season. So don't worry. Kivior will be fine for now. I've asked Arteta directly myself if he'll be giving him the minutes, and he assured me that he would. I'm genuinely not joking. I asked that question. Let's go. NSW says, Tom, you're too tall to need saving. You're already a superhero height. I mean, 6'3", it's not a bad height to be, but I don't want to be stuck in a burning building without help. And if I need help, that man to help me is going to be Sead Kolasinac, without a shadow of a doubt. Adam says, given Trossard scoring a hat-trick against Liverpool at Anfield for Brighton already this season, would you still leave him out of the starting lineup? Yeah, I would, because our best our best starting lineup in the front three is Jesus, Martinelli, and Saka. Trossard coming off the bench is going to be a great option for us. Just because you've scored a hat-trick in one game doesn't mean you'll suddenly score a hat-trick in another game. It doesn't work like that. But Trossard certainly, I think, will be an asset for us coming off the bench in that game. So I look forward to it. Let's go to PG. He says, Tom, do you think Saliba will play against Liverpool or City? Definitely not against Liverpool. I'd be very surprised. I'd be very, very surprised. Maybe not definitely, but I'd be very surprised if Saliba plays. I don't have any inside info on that. I'd just be very surprised if he did. He's not trained yet, as far as I'm aware, so I'd be very shocked. But City, maybe he'll be back. They're very difficult to kind of know how those back kind of injuries evolve. So it's really hard to determine when you might be able to kind of throw him into the team. Olu says, hey, Tom, Brighton's game in hand at home against Man City. Do you think City will slip up in the game? It's impossible to know whether or not they will. I think they will slip up at some point. I think they will drop points. I don't think they'll be perfect. They've just got so many games for them. But they have gone on amazingly long runs of winning streaks. But bear in mind, we, of course, ourselves are on a very good winning run right now, 7 games in a row in the league that we've won. So let's just get on the back of that and realize how good we've been ourselves. And we're scoring a lot of goals, 3s, 4s. You know, we need to make sure we keep that up. And that's why I predicted a 4-1 Arsenal win against Liverpool, because I'm a massive optimist and I will these things into existence. Matt G says, Tom, have you given you any thought to your front three against Liverpool? No, actually, it's not something I've been asked before, Matt. It's just not something I've considered. I will ponder your question and get back to you maybe in a year's time. But I really need to have a long think, and I just haven't come to a conclusion on that question yet. Aditya says, what about Eddie? Do we see him feature for the Liverpool game? I don't think so. I know he's training outside. I don't think he's been integrated into the group yet. I think we're more likely to see him in a couple of weeks maybe than against Liverpool. And says, being 5'4", it means absolutely anyone in that team can pick me and run through the burning building. Yes, indeed. And so you would be a much safer option to save and a much easier option to save than I would. I'm a massive lump that would certainly be a lot more tricky to pull out of a burning building. Let's go to Same. Says the Southampton away game is very difficult as well for City. They have already obviously lost there. They lost in the League Cup at Southampton. But, Southampton are a team that are down the bottom of the table, currently bottom of the table. But we can always hope that a miracle happens. Because I think we might need 1 or 2 of those before the end of this season. I'm just excited and nervous and anxious and delighted to be where we are. And it's going to be a crazy, crazy time. Tomorrow, we'll, of course, be bringing you our preview show of that Liverpool game, with then more shows leading up to the fixture on Sunday. I'm still not 100% sure if I'm going to be there. I'm really hoping to be there because I've never been to Anfield before. It'll be an amazing experience, but I'm still waiting to hear back about whether or not I'm going to be there or not. Hopefully. Keep my fingers crossed. But thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I will certainly, Fuad, be watching the Masters. It will be on in the background while I'm working. Looking forward to having that on. Nice bit of golf. Can't knock it. But thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I really appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that helps continue to support the channel. Our new members, when you join up, of course, any people that have joined up already, our April what we make in April from our TGT membership will be donated, all of it, towards the Arsenal Foundation and the Arsenal Vision fundraiser. So thank you to everybody that's continuing to support the great causes that we try and link ourselves with. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll see you then. I'll also be back in an hour and a half's time on the Arsenal Way. So do indeed join us over there in just 90 minutes time for another roundup of all the Arsenal news and discussion as well. Looking forward to it. See you soon, guys. Have a fantastic day. And as always, up the Arsenal.